So this is my last real big video of this year. I will do some quick short ones before the end of the year. And I hope everyone has a happy new year and happy Hobmwine. Have a dram / Navor. I was hoping to get at least enough subscribers to actually be able to do live streaming, but sadly no, I didn't make it. Maybe next year. Quick update with my site. The store is down because basically PayPal screwed me over and I can't find currently a adequate payment platform for me to reopen. However, I'm doing some research and maybe after Chinese New Year I can try and get something going again. However, if I do reopen, it will be a complete rechange. We won't be selling stock of normal products because at the end of the day, people are best getting stuff directly from the Hong Kong store or from the American TikTok store. For us, if we do reopen, it will be stuff which the other stores out there online can't get, like event items, exclusive items, custom orders, and things which basically are vintage stock which they can't get their hands on. So because the store is currently down, I didn't want to kind of waste the website. So I started doing articles on the blog section. You can kind of read some things I started to upload on there. And before we get on to the main show, I was actually 14 cards away from completing every single card in the collection. And unfortunately, two things happened. One, the release of Photo Fun 6. And even with a few boxes I've opened up, that increased the amount to 50 cards. And then unfortunately, out of nowhere, was the release of Moon 10, and I haven't even begun to actually find out how much I'm missing now. So this is going to be the last box I'm probably going to open for a very long time. Essentially, I'm going to complete Alpha, and if anyone's kind of scratching their head what Alpha is, Alpha are all the cards and box sets from 2021 to 2025. I'm not going to really bother collecting Omega, which is from next year, any box sets from that point onward. I will collect the Chinese New Year box set. If I do collect any cards from as of next year, really it's just like to kind of open up the box and show people ahead of time what they will get, as a kind of like, you know, heads up to people in the West. And I might keep some rarity cards for myself, but I don't plan to continue collecting the CCG. I've been doing this for 5 years now and I'm tapping out. Why am I tapping out? Well, it's just going too fast, really. The first year there was 2 boxes, second year 2 boxes, third year 3 boxes, fourth year there were 5 boxes, and this year there are 9 boxes. And that's just ridiculous, especially when you factor in that there are now also 2 raffle boxes each year, and at least 4 exclusive box sets, and likely 4 or 5 of the actual game card boxes, plus all the novelty boxes and things you can get. It's just too much. There is some controversy with this box set. And it all began with the Hong Kong Instagram sharing a picture of the UR card. And they took it from the poster. Now, the poster had small images, and they thought it would be a grand idea to crop one of the cards and then upscaling it using an AI. Now, when they posted it, and this was a unauthorized action by the account itself, which head office didn't know about. Anyway, the general public who witnessed it started crying that there was something wrong with the cards, that the artists had used AI to produce the card. And they did all they did to kind of downplay everything, but it made the situation worse. And it generated actually a witch hunt, and people went on, started searching who had done this artwork, and an artist who was nothing to do with these cards was harassed, DM'd, and had negative comments plastered all over her Red Note account. So in response, the Hong Kong account tried to explain what they did to calm everyone down, but it wasn't really about the quality of the pictures, which were concerning most people. What was concerning was the unusual positioning of objects in the background. For example, posters and frames being positioned under each other or between curtains or on top of each other. And this sort of like unnatural like placement is also found in AI generation, since AI doesn't really understand the positioning of real life objects. Then you had people who were crying that it was AI derangement or paranoia, but these people didn't stop for 1 second to think, okay, there's a lot of people here and they seem to think this is AI, and not stop to think, okay, why is that? You have to ask yourself, if you took AI out of the equation and put these images in a time when there wasn't AI, it would still raise questions. And for the reason being that, like, from a biological standpoint of human beings, we are programmed to notice things which are not quite right. This is part of our biological defense mechanism. When we see something unusual or something that stands out, this is the sort of thing where, like, you'd see something red and sliver and think, okay, maybe that's not a good idea to touch that sort of thing. When a normal person sees something that's not quite right, there's a reason for that. So with that, I then started doing my own research, and I ran the artwork of the UR cards multiple times through multiple AI detectors, and the results were either positive or inconclusive. Then the Hong Kong Instagram page released the name of the actual artist, and I went and had a look at her artwork. So what's her portfolio? She mainly has done artwork for the South of China Brony community, feature videos, and commission artwork. If you actually look at her artwork, you can kind of get the impression that she's not a classically trained artist, as she makes many mistakes which, if you were classically trained, you would not do, such as draw attention away from your main subject in any painting or picture, especially in commercial artwork. And don't get me wrong, Kayou giving such opportunities to up-and-coming artists or any young artists is amazing, but there should have been some checks and balances, meaning any artist doing commercial work for Kayou should be doing it in-house. That work could be kept an eye on. For famous people like Andy Price, you wouldn't even need to think twice about them using AI, because if they did, they would ruin their careers permanently. But the temptation of using AI, especially for young people, to cut corners is there. And to get this in perspective, even Kayou's offered me the opportunity to be a featured artist on some of their cards. Now, I respectfully declined this offer, mainly because despite the fact that I actually have 7 art qualifications under my belt, I am more of a designer, not an artist, and there is a big difference. Going back to the art, there actually are 3 possibilities going on here. 1, it is just her style, and you look at her artwork and it seems to be highly likely. 2, the main characters weren't AI, but the backgrounds were AI generated. And 3, the background, foreground, and midground were all layered, and one of the layers was not layered correctly and had a strange outcome. My personal belief is that it is actually a combination of 2 things. 1, it's just her personal style, because she was not classically trained and has this like strange habit of placing objects in random locations or layering objects unnaturally. Secondly, I think it really is her cultural misunderstanding of Western spaces like architecture, buildings, and whatnot. For example, in the apple bloom picture, you will see a plant on top of a working mantelpiece of a fireplace. Now, I've lived on a farm, and if you did that, that plant would be dead by the end of the day. The pure heat the mantelpiece receives would fry anything on top of it. And this all boils down to the fact that she's never been to the West, or never seen a real farm or these kind of buildings. Anyway, so I kind of kept out of things, but I noticed it started spreading like everywhere, like wildfire, and getting quite nasty as well. So in the end, I actually called Kayou and spoke to them about like what was going on. And then within about like an hour of me speaking, the posts on the Hong Kong store was removed. Now, that conversation I had with them was that I made it clear that like if there were to be ever AI cards produced by Kayou, cons like in the UK, like PonyCon UK, would ban them. Not just ban them from being there, ban them from being unboxed, ban them from being traded, everything. It would be like a blacklisted item. And this would also most likely happen through multiple cons as well. And if that happened, then you could kiss goodbye to those like cards being popular at all in the whole community. So since that conversation, I've had messages from people asking what's going on, or what is the outcome of the investigation, what Kayou was doing. And the truth is that we'll likely never know what one way or the other. But the main thing is that like they're taking the situation very seriously, and I doubt this sort of situation will happen ever again. It seemed that like the Hong Kong account person who was running it has been obviously dealt with, and most likely all what happened will be buried, because at the end of the day, like most Chinese companies, when it comes to something like this, they tend to just bury it and move on. So what is the crux of all the problems? Really, essentially, it boils down to the fact that Kayou currently is in a kind of teenage form, and to really be a global brand, it needs to metamorphosis into an adult form. And I don't think it can do that in the way it is. If you can see behind the curtain of what Kayou is, you will know that like everything is done in such a kind of like creative way that basically you have too many hands in the cookie jar and too many things are going on. And that may seem a wonderful place from a creative standpoint, but from a company standpoint, that is not good, because no one knows what is going on. You've got these designers here who've got kickbacks to like streamers, will get you the boxes so you can stream first. You've got these people doing these things, these people doing that things, and now you've thrown another layer on top of it, that now you've got Kayou America and most likely eventually Kayou Europe, which we know because they're already hiring people in London in a London office. So this is going to create like multiple issues unless there's some sort of centralized authority about who can do what, who is doing what, and what is going on. Because currently they don't know what's going on. It's a complete mess behind the curtain. And I say this not as like me throwing shade at Kayou. I know many people who work for Kayou, old and new, and I just wish them all the best. But I know, based on the deck of hands I have of information of what's going on, and I'm actually really lucky to actually have what I can see. But what I do see going on, Kayou needs to pull its pants up and stop behaving in its like teenage bratty form and, you know, put on a suit and tie. You know, they can keep things creative, but like there needs to be like some sort of boss taking responsibility and making sure that like, you know, this sort of like slip ups and things that won't happen again. And you can't do that with everyone with their hands in the cookie jar, with everyone not knowing what's going on.
I'm sure you've heard the words, "This is the way." But have you ever stopped to feel their weight? The Mandalorian is more than a story, it's a code. A creed about loyalty, found family, and the journey of redemption. So as we wrap up, remember, whether you're forging your own path or standing by those who matter most is the way. hit subscribe, and let's explore the galaxy together.